Hey friends and family, my name is Tina Blount and I'm the director of the Arise Coaching and Counseling Center. I want to welcome you to the Center's YouTube channel, where we will regularly be introducing you to amazing content that will provide you with the resources you need to coach and give you direction for life and allow you to get counseling and heal from the wounds of life. Now, in addition to being the director of the center, I also serve as a life and career coach. Today, you'll be watching a workshop that I gave on the topic of dynamic budgeting. If you have ever wanted to learn how to boss your money around, this is the message for you. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Well, guys, I am so excited that you are with us this morning. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. It was the coolest thing ever for me to be able to see, as I was preaching the message on stewardship, to watch everyone like put in their cameras up at those QR codes. And this entire workshop really came, I want to say, as a complete birth out of a desire from the Lord to not just let us stir up this thought around budgeting, but to really figure out how to be able to do it. And so thank you for being here. I'm going to shout out Pastor Kieran. He is the executive producer today. And if everything goes well, it's on him. If it doesn't go well, it's on me. Just know that, like, straight from the get-go. So give him the little finger things, right? So that he can see, or a fire chat. That's what he likes, thumbs up, whatever it is. We so appreciate him. The reality is here, and we're going to go ahead and get this thing moving, is that, there's some things about budgeting basics that I think are important for us to understand as we get right down to it with money. The reality is that many of us will say, I have a budget, right? Many of us will actually say that. But the budget that most of us had, or at least I had for a really long time, was a mental budget. It was the budget that was in my head. And I had a really wise person tell me, there we go. I think I got muted there for a second. I'm back. It's really fuzzy math. And the thing about a mental budget is that it rarely reflects reality, right? Because in my head, I can twist and turn anything I want to. But the beauty is that a written budget, it gives you information. It gives you information at your hands. There's things that you can learn. It lets you know where your numbers are going. It lets you know, am I upside down? Am I right side up? It lets you know whether or not you have a don't make enough issue or a spend too much issue. It lets you know whether, if you're married, you and your spouse are on the same page, or if you're not on the same page. The reality is that knowledge is power. The other thing for me is that it creates peace on paper on purpose. Peace on paper on purpose. Here's the thing. I can handle bad news. I just need to know what the bad news is, right? I don't like unexpected bad news. I don't like unexpected surprises. I don't like living in ambiguity. Like, if there's something bad that's about to go down, I want to know what it looks like. And so even though your numbers on paper might look great, or maybe they don't look great, it will give you peace, because you can't go from a place where you don't know where you are. Right? So now you can build a plan to get to where you actually want to be. And then the reality is that what I feel like I've used over the course of my life, and please keep in mind, I'm not a master here. I'm not a teacher. I am a student of the budget. I'm just sharing what I've learned on my journey, is that a dynamic interactive spending plan is the first step towards financial stewardship. Dynamic is that word that means constant change, activity, progress. And so we're not creating a static plan that we never look at again. We do it once, it's one and done, and you move on with it. It doesn't work like that. This is something that will become, if you allow it, a part of your daily life and the way that you maintain your life. I like to call it a financial selfie. It's a financial selfie that you take again and again and again. Now, I don't know about you guys. I'll tell a little secret. I have this cool little app on my phone that when I take a selfie, I can do some slight modifications. I can change the lighting. I can whiten my teeth. I can add eyelashes. I can do, whatever I want to do, right? Make my eyes bigger, my face slimmer. Like I can morph things a little bit. And so the reality is that with this financial selfie, you can do the exact same thing. You're constantly working to make it better, not make it not real, just make it better. And so, as we get ready to get into this, I want you to begin to think about if you were to give yourself a nickname about your finances or where you're at in your finances, like what would your nickname be? So right out of the gate, like I was for many years of my life, I was the Hot Money Mess Express. Like that would have been my nickname. I was a hot mess when it came to money. And then I really became a student of the spreadsheet, right? So if you're going to give me a nickname, I would call myself student of the spreadsheet. But now in this season of my life, I am bougie on a budget, right? So I like lavish, lovely things on a budget. So if I can get them at a consignment store or a thrift store, like I'm all about it. Bougie on a budget. And so Pastor Kieran, I am curious, if you were to give yourself a nickname, what would you give yourself?
My nickname would probably be Kickback Kids, because all the money that I have gets kicked back to my kids.
Okay. Okay, I get it. For a second there, I thought you said kicks, and I thought it was going to be about your shoes, but now you said kids, and I'm like, okay, that's better.
Like, there's the part of me that want to say everything about my shoes, but I'm trying to work through that, Pastor Tina. I'm trying to work through that.
I'm glad to hear it. So, Pastor Kieran, don't you think we should hear from some of the others on the call today in the chat? What
Absolutely.
do you think?
Let me see. Let me see your nicknames. If you got some nicknames, I'll start to drop them in the chat. I'll start to look them out as we go through. Kicking Kieran, Bougie, Sally, however you want them to name it. I mean, I'm ready to hear them as we get them through. PT, as we wait for some, what are some other nicknames that you've heard of, or you have, or you've been prone to be in your lifetime?
Oh, let's see. How about, spending Sally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, drowning in debt, Debbie. I have been all the negative ones, right?
Gotcha.
I have been, mad money, something or other during my corporate days, right? Mm-hmm. So just, I don't know, like you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
We have a Blaze Warrior, and I don't know if it's the pizza place, but the Blaze Warrior. I like it.
Okay, I like it.
Any other ones? Drop some in the chat. Let me see some of y'all's financial nicknames. There's a funny story about when I first got onto the staff. Pastor Brent came across a picture of me when in my young days where I was laying with my rent money all over the place, trying to act like I was cool. I wasn't. It was rent money. People thought it was other things, but it was rent money. It was rent money. Any other names before we move on? Spending Squirrel. And I like that.
Squirrel.
Spending Squirrel. Okay. Fast and Furious. It comes fast and it's spent furiously. I like that. I like that.
Well, it's always fun to kind of stop and think about like the way we think about money, mm-hmm. and the way we identify with money, right? Because the reality is that we all identify it. Somebody told me theirs one time was lacking Larry, right? Because they just didn't feel like they had any, but we all relate to money in one way, shape, form, or another. Anyone else, Pastor Kieran, before we keep going?
Starbucks CEO. I co-signed that.
Yeah, Starbucks CEO.
I co-sign that for sure. I am a Starbucks fanatic. I probably have stocks in them I don't even know about. Thrift store Tammy. I like it. Come on, thrift store. I love the thrift store. I don't know about y'all, but thrift store Tammy, I like it. Let's get a couple more before we move on. Yeah, I love it too. Good deals are always the best.
I can't send except to Pastor Tina directly. It won't go to the main chat.
What was that?
I can only send to Pastor Tina. It's going straight to Pastor Tina. It won't go to the main chat for some
Oh,
reason.
gotcha. All you got to do is when you go into the chat, go to where it says to, hit the drop down and hit everyone. And you can send it to
When I
everybody.
hit it, it only shows Pastor Tina's name. It doesn't have anything else.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's
That
what
is
I
interesting.
responded to earlier, just showing, it just shows Tina, or actually two Tinas, Tina host and Tina co-host, or in other words, Tina and Kieran.
No, it's Tina and Tina. Bill. All good. All good. I see it anyways. I'll see it anyways. I'll shout them out as we go through. And hopefully I can
Awesome.
probably resolve that as we get going.
Well, thanks for taking everybody a second to kind of think about that financial nickname a little bit. The reason that I have you go through this process is because the reality is as I said a second ago, we all identify with money differently, right?
Mhm.
And the way we see ourselves with money often impacts the way we spend it, the way we save it, the way we budget it, the way we account for it. And you can see my evolution here from, hot money mess to student of the spreadsheet to bougie on a budget. You can see my identity change as I relate to money. And that's what I want you to go through as well as we get into this. So let's get into budgeting basics. That's why you're here. That's the whole purpose that you're here. Let's get into these budgeting basics and let's begin to talk about how you create a budget. Now, let me say this. There are many ways to be able to do it, as I mentioned in the message. The reality is that I only know one way. I know how to do it on a spreadsheet. That's my only way to know how to do it. Dave Ramsey has a system called Every Dollar. Crown Financial has a system as well. But I'm going to show you my way because this is literally what's worked for me over the course of the last 10 years. You've probably heard me say that Jesus on the cross of Calvary saved my soul, but the word of God saved my mind. It saved my sanity. The reality is that the budget is what allowed me to feel like I was living securely, no matter how much money I was making. So here's your first 3 steps when it comes to building a budget. I'm going to tell you the steps and then I'm going to show you the steps. The first thing you need to do is you need to create a list of your income. How do you receive income into your household? Some of you work as employees in an organization, and so you're going to have a paycheck. Some of you are entrepreneurs, and so your money comes in differently, but that's your income. Some of you receive alimony or child support, and that is income. Some of you have a day job, and some of you have a side hustle. That is income. And so you want to make a list of all of the income that comes in for you on a regular basis. You're accounting for what you can count on. Oftentimes when I help people with budgets, they will try to build into their budget. Oh yeah, well, I think I'm going to be getting a tax return back. When do you think you're going to get that? I don't know, maybe June. Okay, we can't count on that, right? I'm going to be selling some things around my house. We can't count on that. So you're creating a list of the income that you can count on. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to create a list of your expenses. Every single expense that comes through into your hands and through your hands every single month. And you're going to look at both your fixed monthly expenses and your flexible expenses. Your fixed money expenses will be things like your rent or your mortgage. Your fixed will be your car payment. If you have a student loan payment, for example, that's a fixed expense. It doesn't change. It's there every single month. Your car insurance, that is a fixed expense. And then you're going to look at your flexible money. Believe it or not, food is not a fixed expense. Food is a flexible expense because depending on how much money you have, you might be eating filet or you might be eating ramen. right? It depends on what kind of money you have. And so you want to list all of your flexible monthly income. People tell me Netflix is a fixed expense. No, it's not. It's really not, because if you don't have enough money for Netflix, it is not a fixed expense. Netflix is not going to come after you if you don't pay their bill, right? But the car company, the car loan company will do it. So you're going to create a list of all of your expenses. And one of the ways that I encourage you to do that is write down everything that you know. I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that gives you some areas to think about. But then I want you to go back and look over the last 3 months at your bank statement. Now, whether you pull it up on the computer or you pull it up like I do on the phone, you want to go through and look at what you're spending. It is amazing for us to figure out how much we're spending at, in my case, Dunkin' Donuts. In somebody else's case, it might be Starbucks. For somebody else, it might be Target, right? I go to Walmart with a list, but I go to Target with an open heart and open mind, right? Because Target, I don't go to Target saying what I'm going to buy. Target tells me what I need to buy if I don't have a budget. So you're going to create a list of that expenses. Step 3 in the process is that you're going to determine when they are due every single month. When are they due every single month? Fixed expenses will have a set date. The car payment is always due on the 20th of the month. The insurance is always due on the 10th of the month. Your rent or mortgage might be due on the 25th of the month, right? Others of them have set patterns. They're not set expenses. There's not a set date, but there's a set pattern to it. So let me show you what this looks like practically. I'm going to toggle my screen here for just a moment. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to move to an actual sample of a budget. Okay, so this is a sample budget, but this is the spreadsheet that I use. It's the spreadsheet I have used for a decade. As I shared with you, I had a coach, Dave Ramsey financial coach, that taught me this process. So in putting steps together 1, 2, and 3, we're going to look at these 3 columns, A, B, and C. Do me a favor and try really hard not to read over. Stay with me on A, B, and C. We're going to start by identifying all of your expenses. We talked about that, or excuse me, all of your income. So you'll create as many categories here as you need to create categories. If you're a 2-person household, you're going to have employment income number 1, and you might just say Jane's income. You might say Dave's income, right? So here it is. You've got miscellaneous income. So that could be that you get child support. That could be that maybe you get alimony. You could have side hustle 1. You could have side hustle 2. You're going to list all of those here, right here. Then you're going to put the amount. So in this case, I've got employment income number 1 making $3,000 a month, and employment income number 2 making $2,100 a month. I've got a little note here that tells me this is how much per week is coming in. You might have income coming in bi-weekly. You might have coming in twice a month. You might have money coming in monthly. You might get a salary, but then you might get a commission. So you want to be as detailed here as possible. Then we want to get into our expenses. Now, I've got expenses broken into categories. So I have giving in one particular area here. I have that broken down as tithe, legacy, and other giving, right? So I personally support a couple of nonprofits in the area. And so these 2 are my constant, and then I have my other giving. Over here, I track my savings. Now you're going to notice, just as a side note, that based upon the income that's coming in here, I already have the numbers figured in to be 10% of giving. And over here, I have it as 5% savings. And you're going to see in just a moment why I don't have that at 10%. But we have that here. Then we're going to get into our expenses. And you'll notice I've got your mortgage. Let's say it's $1,700, it's due on the 5th, and it's a fixed expense. Your HOA, your insurance, your lawn, your house cleaning, lawn and pool, though that can be flexible, I called it fixed because some homeowners association just charge that in. They do the maintenance of it and they charge that in. We get into utilities. We get into food, right? And I break mine down into groceries, eating out, school, work, lunches. You can break this out as much as you want to. You can have a line here called Starbucks if you want it, right? You can have a line here called Friday night date if you want it. So here's my food. Then we get into transportation, okay? Car payments, insurance, gas, repairs, tolls, registration, all of these types of things build in. Clothing, right? Medical and healthcare. Then you get into personal, and sometimes personal for people is very, very short. Other times it's really long. So this could be toiletries. This could be cosmetics. This could be, do you get your nails done? Do you go for massages? Do you get your hair cut? Do you go to a barber? Do you get your hair styled? For me, I know you'll be shocked by this, but I get my hair cut every month and I get it colored every other month so that we can deal with these sparkly things that have decided to start growing in as I've gotten a little older and wiser, right? And so that number fluctuates because one month it's a certain amount and every other month it's a little bit higher than that. I also have a section here, your gym membership, if you take a gym class. The other area here that I want you to notice is that I've called spending money, because the reality is that unless we're completely upside down in our expenses, we are all going to have what Dave Ramsey calls blow money or just spending money, right? This is the money that you are spending to do just the little things that you want to do. Maybe as a couple, you each say, okay, you each get $100 a week or $50 a week, and you don't have to account for it anywhere, right? That's your money. And by the way, that's money that I usually take out in cash. And that way I don't overspend in that particular area. Then we get into recreation. So entertainment, this could be your date nights. This could be girlfriend brunches. This could be, golfing for you, whatever that is for you. I've got my entertainment are things like my Netflix. Some of you might have Disney Channel for your kids. And then perhaps I'm saving for vacation. So I'll put a section in here called vacation. And that way I can account for money that I want to go to that perhaps vacation fund. You'll notice that I don't have a section in here for childcare, just because I'm kind of past that age at this point, but you could certainly add it in and create an entire category for childcare expenses or just children's expenses in general. Then you get into debt snowball. Some of you I know have student loans that you're paying off. You might have a Visa, you might have a MasterCard, you might have a gas card. So I'm putting in, here's the amount of what that looks like. Now, in this particular person's budget, I want you to notice I've already got the formulas built in for you. And let me just say that we will be sharing this spreadsheet with you. It's going to be completely cleaned out so that you can put your numbers in, and the formulas are already created for you. So for those of you who think, I don't know how to use Excel, no worries, it's plug and play. You just have to drop your numbers in. And this particular person's budget, I want you to notice, and this is a hypothetical person, that we have income, let's come back here, of $5,100 a month. But our expenses equal $52,6250. So we're $162.50 short on meeting budget every single month right here. And so if this person was not keeping an actual written detailed log of their budget, this is where I wish you could talk to me. What do you think would be happening to their budget? What we would see here is that this particular person would be completely upside down. This particular person may come to the end of the month and feel like they don't have enough money to spend. And we always spend more than we think we do, right? That's just the reality. We always spend more than we think we do. And so if this person is not on top of their numbers, the reality is that they very quickly, their budget could go completely sideways. So the first step, those first 3 steps are tracking your income, tracking your expenses, and identifying the date that they are due. Okay, let me toggle back to the PowerPoint, and we'll pick up where we left off. Okay, so those are the first 3 steps. Pastor Kieran, are you still here with me? He may have stepped away for just a moment. I was going to ask if there's any questions. If you
No, I'm
have
here.
any questions, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we just take a moment and pause and ask if anyone has any questions on these first 3 steps before I keep going?
I did have 2 questions come in.
Okay.
One question was, how do you record income with a commission-based income?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can completely relate to that question, because that's one of the first reasons that I hired a budget coach, is that I got paid, not necessarily commission, but I got paid intermittently. And so it was really hard to track. And so the best recommendation is you take a 3-month average of what your commissions are, and that's the number that you based on. You recognize that it could be a little lower. You recognize that it could be higher because you're working with variables, but you take a 3-month average, and that's the number you work with. If, however, you have been killing it for the last 3 months, but you don't typically kill it all the time, then you're going to take a 6-month average, right? Because that's just a bigger picture to look at. And you're going to use that number as the budget number. And then I'll show you as we get through this, how you put in the actual numbers as we go along.
Great. We had another question. This was the question. The question is, what do you do when it's a 5-week month versus a 4-week?
Yeah, that absolutely happens. And so I create a budget that is 3 months at a time, right? That's how I personally do it. And so because of that, I know in advance that it's a 5-week month. So on a 5-week month, if you're not commission-based, you're still going to get the same paychecks each time. But then your expenses will simply just be spread over that 5 months. And when I show you the next step in the process, I think it'll clear that up a little bit about what that looks like. So most of the time it's 4 weeks, but if you'll create it minimally 3 months at a time, you'll just be able to allocate those expenses according to when the date is due on the calendar for there. You just budget it just a little bit differently, but you still eat in a 5-week month. You still drive in a 5-week month. You still get paid in a 5-week month. So there's a lot that stays the same, even though there's some things that might be a little bit different.
Awesome. And we have one more, just for clarification. Is the income listed net or gross income?
Yeah, it's net income. It's what's accessible and available in your hands. You're tracking your net income, because the gross, you're going to have insurance coming out of it. You're going to have taxes coming out of it. You're going to have all of that coming out of it. I do not base my budget on the gross. I base my budget on the net.
Awesome.
What do I tithe off of? That is almost always the question that follows that. Do I tithe off of the gross, or do I tithe off of the net? The reality of that is that it depends on what you want to be blessed on. That's the short answer, right? If you want your blessing based upon the net of what you take home, what hits your hand, that's what you use. Many Christian financial professionals will say tithe off of the gross, and a lot of people start with the net and they work their way up to the gross.
That's it for now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Great questions. Okay, let's keep going. We've done these first 3 steps. We've created a list of your income. We've created a list of your expenses, and we've determined their due date. And so now you see your financial big picture. And know this, you're only seeing at this point about 85% of what you're dealing with. As I said, we almost always spend more than we think we will, and you have to adjust the budget. There could be that a child gets sick or you get sick and you need to go see the doctor, right? There that is. And so there might be some additional expenses, but you're tracking everything that's within your power to be able to know. And so now we move on to the next 3 steps. So the next 3 things that we want to do is we now want to assign that expense to a particular week in the month, right? So if you get paid every week, that makes it a little bit easier. If you get paid every other week, you'll have to adjust the dates on the budget. If you get paid twice a month, right, you'll have to adjust that. But you assign the expenses. You're going to assign your monthly expenses and you're going to assign your weekly expenses, right? Now, then we're going to begin to track. Once that's done, we're going to begin to track and log the weekly net numbers. So I make adjustments 2 to 3 times a week in my budget. My budget is dynamic. It is interactive. I am constantly interacting with it. If I have been out spending, it's the weekend and I've gone out to eat and I've done grocery shopping and maybe I've gone and done some entertainment of some sort. I then go in and I put in what my actual numbers were. I don't leave the estimated budget numbers there. I put in my actual numbers. And so I'm constantly logging that a couple of times a week. I know people who are comfortable doing it once a week. I've never been comfortable with that. I really need to do it a couple of times a week. And then based upon that, I can make decisions based upon what my spending is. I can reallocate dollars if I need to. If I've had an expense come up that I was not prepared for, I might need to reallocate something. I might need to trim the fat. I might say, gosh, I had a doctor's appointment come up this week. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know about you, but if I go see a specialist, it's $120 to walk in the door, right? Okay, well, that might mean that this week I'm not eating out. Right? That might mean that I've got to make an adjustment to my budget. I might need to increase my income. This particular week, I might need to do something to increase my income. So for example, in my life, just to let you into my personal world, I work at Arise full-time, every bit of 50, 55 hours a week, but I also work for Indeed.com and I do video reviews of resumes. And I do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm a job coach by trade and it keeps my skills fresh. That's one of the reasons that I do it. I do it secondly because I have financial goals that I'm working towards and my base salary does not account for that. And so I am working towards those kind of goals. And number 3, it's just an area of personal passion for me that I like to help people in. It's, there's really bad resumes in the world and I want to do something about it. And so I have that income. So on that particular week, I might go, okay, well, I typically might work 5 to 7 hours in a week, but I know I see something coming on the budget and I'm like, I need to up that this week. I need to find 10 to 15 hours that I'm giving something up or I'm reallocating my time to be able to bring in some additional income. I'm a big fan, by the way, of a side hustle. I'm just a big fan of it. Unless you have a budget that is just blowing up with money, and good for you if that is, I'm just a big personal fan of the side hustle. The other thing here is in this step 6, you have to allocate every dollar, right? If I leave money on the table and there is money sitting on the table that is not allocated, I will take it to Target every single week and twice on Sundays, right? I just will. I know what my patterns are. And so we want to make decisions here that allocate every dollar. So let me show you practically what this looks like. Again, let me stop share here. We'll back up for a moment. Okay, so now I'm back to the spreadsheet. So we have all of the expenses. You have all of the expenses here that you are going to have coming out of your month. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to begin assigning them. In the case that I have a consistent income every week, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to plug those dollars in across the board, across my spreadsheet. And I only have about 6 weeks here for you, but I plug them in all the way across. If I had a commission, and I know that my commission comes in, the last week of the month, but maybe I get a draw against my commission, or I get a base pay plus my commission, I'm going to put in my base pay all the way across. In fact, let's just say that we called this commission here, right? And this commission typically is about $500, right? And it typically comes in monthly, EOM, end of the month. Here. So then what I would do is that I would come over here to the very end of the month and I would put in $500. I am a big fan of under budgeting, under budget what I'm doing. So if I think I'm only going to break $500 and occasionally I've hit $650, I'm still going to put $500 in here every single time. So I'm going to account for it. Now I'm going to start accounting. I'm going to go line by line by line, and I'm going to allocate my expenses per week. So I know that my tithe is about $127.50 a week. I put that in. Maybe I'm only giving $20 to legacy. That's $5 a week. My savings, and yes, I budget my savings. If you do not have an emergency fund of $1,000 sitting in an emergency fund bank, in an account, and that account, by the way, in my opinion, should not be in your savings account. Put it in its own account where you can access it. I'm also a believer, take it from me, some people are great examples, other people are great warnings. I'm the great warning, and therefore I become a great example. If that money is sitting in my savings account and I can stand in a store and I can move it in a matter of seconds from my savings to my checking, I'm in trouble because I can talk myself into anything I want, right? So I'm a big fan of putting your emergency fund in a online savings account that you can access, but it might take 24 hours to actually hit your account, right? I'm just a big fan of it, sticking it over here in an emergency fund. If you have more discipline than I do, then hallelujah, run with it in that direction. But yes, I do budget those dollars. And when I get paid, I move that money out of my checking account and put it over into another account. All right, now we have things like, your mortgage, your rent, et cetera. I'm working with someone right now. I'm working as their budget coach at the moment, who was finding they're upside down in their income expenses. They have more expenses than they actually do income. And so what's happening is that by the time they get to the end of the month, they don't have enough money for their rent. Okay. And so now they're like, oh, I've got to put it on a credit card, or I'm going to take out a high interest loan, or I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to pay that there. What I'm a big fan of is if your financial situation is a situation where right now you are upside down, and please hear me, there is no judgment in my voice at all whatsoever. I have been in every financial state you could possibly imagine. I understand the temptations that come with those states. In that particular person's case, what we recommend is covering their 4 walls. If your money is just kind of a mess at the moment, like mine was, you want to cover your 4 walls. You want to make sure that your housing is covered first, that your utilities are covered, right? You got to have lights and you got to have a house over your head. You protect it at all costs. You protect your transportation. That's next, right? Your vehicle, your gasoline, your insurance, you protect that next. And then you protect your food. And so if you're going to have to decide in a season where you're getting a handle on your money, what you pay first and last, you begin by talking about those 4 walls and only those 4 walls. So in this particular person's case, what I am teaching this person is that we have actually created an account specifically for housing. And every single week, we take that amount of money that this person is paying and we break it up in 4 chunks. And we move it immediately out of their bank account and we move it over into an account. so that at the end of the month, when the rent needs to be paid, we simply transfer it into the checking account and pay it. So just if you find yourself in that place, those are just some things to think about. But we go through and we allocate electric, utilities, etc. The beauty of this, here's the power, here's what changed my life, right? Was that I could see at the bottom where I was going to have excess and overflow and where I was going to be short. Okay, so do we see here that on this particular paycheck, I'm assuming that this person gets paid weekly and this person got paid yesterday. This person has $700 left over at the end of that week. Now, once upon a time in my life, I was like, I've got money. It's time to go shopping or play or whatever it is, entertainment, whatever it is I want to do. But because I can see that the next week I'm going to be negative, that means that I don't get to do anything beyond what I have budgeted on this particular week. And here's how you navigate it. I know that I'm going to have $778 left. So on the morning that I get paid on April the 1st, before anything gets out, I come up here and I put in $778. I think there was some change there. Let's go back, $78.75. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in 78. Oops, let's try this again. 778.75. Now take a look at how much I now have in my account. Right here, I have $2,000 in my account. So when I scroll all the way down, now I'm only $257 short this particular week. Now it's time for me to make some decisions. Now, I stepped in at just a point in time. The hope would be that there is enough money over here to be able to cover that I've been moving money over from each week to make sure to cover it. But let's assume that that's not the case. Well, if I don't have enough for that particular week, you know what? Entertainment goes away this week. That's the discipline in being a good steward, is to say, okay, all right, 232, what does that look like? Okay, well, you know what? This is a week that I don't have spending money. Okay, we just have to grow up and face the reality. I don't have money here. Now I'm down to $200 that week. Guess what? I may not go shopping for clothes on that particular week. I might be able to do it another week of the month. I'm going to take that out at this point, right? And so now we're down to $100. You begin looking and you begin trimming that fat. What can you do? What does that look like? Maybe this week you don't get a car wash. You got it the week before. Maybe this week you're not eating out this week. Maybe that's a week that you're not actually doing that. Okay. And so now we come down here and now we're only short $42.50. Again, I'm stepping into a point in time. So I might have to look at this and go, oh, okay, I'm going to have to go 2 weeks this month. Let's back it up. I'm going to have to go 2 weeks this month without eating out. And I might have to go 2 weeks without any extra play money. Again, this is a budget that's just simply tight. And now I've got $853.75. Let's come back over. $853.75. Let's take a look at our bottom line numbers. I don't have much left over, but I've got something that's left over. And this is how you begin to toggle your account. You begin to look at, what am I building? What does it look like? If at the end of every week or every month you have a lot left over, well, what that says is that you can do a couple things. Maybe you can come up here and you can put more into savings. Maybe you can have a splurge night where you're going out at the end of the month. You can make other decisions because now, as we talked about, now you have knowledge, now you have power, now you can make some decisions about what your budget looks like. And you simply go through this throughout the course of the entire week. You can look ahead in your month and see what that looks like. You can look ahead all the way across the board. So before I go any further, Pastor Kieran, let's open it up to additional questions.
Awesome. Awesome. We have some other questions. So let me pull on my question here. First question was this regarding the emergency fund. it was asked that what would you recommend do anything beyond the $500 to $1,000 starter emergency fund? What some have seen is that the emergency fund tends to get blown through pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first goal is always to try to keep $1,000 in that emergency fund. That's always the first goal. So if you have to blow through and you have a car issue that comes up, or a house issue, or whatever it is, and you blow that $1,000 on an expense, that's what it's there for. Then your second step is, okay, I've got to replenish that $1,000. The goal is to grow that emergency fund to have 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses, 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So if your monthly expenses, let's see, where did we come down here? Your monthly expenses comes down to $5,000. Step number 2 is you want to grow that emergency fund to 1 month, $5,000. The goal would be to get to 3 months of having $15,000, because I can say this as a job coach. If you lose your job today and you are in a professional vocation, it will take you a minimum of 3 months to find a job. Now, there are some positions that you can step into fairly quickly, high demand positions that are always recruiting. And so that number, you will go through that money incredibly quickly. The other question is that people often ask, okay, Pastor Tina, I'm only making ends meet at the moment. Like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm only making ends meet. How do I come up with an extra? How do I even get $1,000 that's in here? A couple of things. Sell everything that's not nailed down, right? If you're not using it and it's not helping you, then it can actually be a blessing to you. Sell it. Have a garage sale. Take something to a thrift store. Pick up a side hustle in some way, shape, and form, something that you can do creatively. There are so many side hustle opportunities that are out there. They may not be things that you necessarily want to do, but I can tell you the security that comes from knowing I've got $1,000 in the bank in case something happens is worth the couple of hours extra a week that you put into raising that money.
Awesome. Another question was regarding the spreadsheet. If you are paid monthly, is there just one column, or is there another column after D?
No, I would still break it up into 4 weeks. And so if you're only paid monthly, if you get in one lump sum monthly, I still recommend that you break that up into individual weeks. And so that money is sitting in your account if you've got great discipline, so that you can allocate it. If you don't have great discipline, then I'm going to recommend actually multiple accounts for you. That, okay, your housing money goes over here and you don't pull it out until the house is due. Your transportation money comes over here. So you have this one general account that receives money and typically pays things from, but you have these several other accounts. And these days, there's next to no cost to have another account. You move it, you allocate it, and then you pull it when you actually need it.
Awesome. Awesome. One more question. I apologize. I don't remember what this was in regards to, but it says another decision could be to pay off extra debt to eliminate extra interest costs.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Dave Ramsey talks about, assigning every dollar. He talks about the debt snowball, right? And I'm not going to get into all of that today, but if you have extra money on a monthly basis and it's extra money, it doesn't just have to sit in your savings account. In fact, if you have $1,000 in your emergency fund and you are carrying debt, then I would tell you to reallocate that extra money out of savings to your debt snowball and pay those suckers off. Get those things off your plate so that they are not a burden over you at that point. Whoever made a great suggestion.
Awesome. Those are any other questions, we will take them right now, but if not, PT, that's all we have right now.
Okay, beautiful. All right, let's move on from here. I'm going to stop share. Let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so we talked about the next 3 steps. Let's go ahead And let's talk about the last three. Remember that this is an interactive budget. And so you are going to be interacting with your budget on a regular basis, whether that's once a week for you. For me, it's a couple of times a week. Here are the steps that only take. When an item is pending, or I know that it will come out automatically, in that week, I turn the color of that item blue. Okay, I changed the font color to blue. That tells me it hasn't cleared the bank and or it's scheduled to come out automatically. Now, I can't remember the last year I wrote a check, but I have paid bills and they just haven't cleared, like my electric bill, like I paid on Tuesday and it's not coming out till Thursday, or I pay my phone bill and it's not coming out till Saturday. I turn the color blue so that when I look at that week, I know what's in my account and what hasn't. Years ago, I was young, I was really young. I, would write checks and, checks were out there, but the checks hadn't cleared. But then I would go do something and I would go look at my account and I go, oh, I've got money in the bank. I can do this. I couldn't do that because the money had already been spoken for. I just didn't know. And so knowing what has cleared and hasn't cleared is important. Then when the item actually clears, I color code my item red. At least once a week, if not more, I go in and I color code it red. And that way I can look at it at any point in time. Black means it still needs to be paid. Blue means it's pending. Red means it has cleared the bank. And then the last step is that I celebrate, I learn things, and I begin again, right? The focus is to be on being intentional rather than on perfection. It's about growing, it's about learning. So let's go take a look at what this would actually look like. I'm stopping our share. I'm back up to our budget. Okay, so let's come over here. And I am this week because we just got paid, right? So entertainment is not, I'm going to spend it. That's not going to come out automatically. Let's come back up here just a little bit. I've already taken some money out of here so that we can make do. Insurance, none of that's coming out this week. Groceries aren't coming out automatically. Savings. Okay, so I'm going to pick a different week just because it's easier to do so. So let's assume I'm in next week and I have authorized and I know that my mortgage or my rent, whatever it is going to come out soon. I just come in here and I turn it blue, right? But my insurance has already come out that particular week. And so I go up here and I turn it red. I know what that looks like. I know that my groceries are almost always going to go from black to red. They are almost always. However, they may not. Here's why. Here's the other thing that I do. Here's just my technique. Sometimes I don't get to do all of my grocery shopping in one fell swoop. I hit the market on Friday and I pick up a couple of things and now it's Sunday afternoon and I'm back for the other things. So I might come over here and I might turn it blue. And then I come over here and I insert a comment and I might say, spent $75 at Publix on 4/1. Okay. Now I know I've got a little thing there that's telling me. So now I know that I still have $50 left to spend, but I do this for accountability. I do this for accountability for myself. And then again, I come up here and I turn it blue. You can turn it any color you want it. Those are just the colors that I've used forever and ever and ever, right? And then you just navigate it. So at a moment's glance, you can see what your financial selfie looks like. I can see what's coming out. Here's why this is important. Let's assume for whatever reason that, let's pick an item here. Let's pick a big item here. Let's come back up here and let's take a look at the mortgage and the rent. So let's assume that it is, I'm just doing the math, taking a look at a calendar. It is scheduled to come out on my calendar the week of April the 1st, right? And I don't get paid again until the 8th, but it's due on the 5th, but it doesn't clear your account. And all of a sudden it's time for your paycheck again, right? So what I'm going to do, and it's not cleared my account, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move it over here. Okay. I'm going to turn it blue because it's pending, and I'm going to take it out here. Even though I initiated the payment here, if it has not come out yet, I need it to clear here. So what you're going to find is that these numbers are going to look different. Now I'm going to have $1,700 left over here. I'm going to come up to the top, $1,732.50. And then when it comes out, right, this is what my number looks like. So you're interacting with it. You're watching your numbers. You're watching when they clear and when they don't clear, so that you can continuously make sure that you are set up for success that week. Many moons ago, I used to have a hard time paying bills on time. And it wasn't that I didn't have the money. And it wasn't that I was lazy. It was that I was busy and I didn't have a system to know when something was actually due. And this saved me. I can't even begin to tell you how many late fees, because I knew when and where to actually budget those dollars. And so again, at the beginning of every week, I go to my bank account and I say, what was my balance before my paycheck hit my account? That's the number that I put in here. I add in the income that's going to hit the account that week or that bi-week, whatever that is to you. And then I work through my expenses. Does anybody have any questions about this part of the process?
If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat or even raise your hand. But I don't see any at the moment, Pastor Tina.
Okay, so let's keep going. Let's move back to the PowerPoint presentation because we are wrapping it up and we are coming into the home stretch. I'm hoping you're finding this helpful. I can tell you, I cannot even begin to express to you, I wish you could actually feel my heartbeat at the moment. The way this process brought me sanity and peace. It seems like it can be a tad complicated. I promise you, I taught my daughter to do it when she was 13 years old. She's now 23 years old. And for accountability, she and I still review her budget every couple of weeks. In the last year or so, we went over it once a week. If she can do it at 13, you can do it. You can totally do it. All right, a couple of last things that I want you to think about. I want you to think about your goals. As you're thinking about, do I want to try this budgeting thing? Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? I want you to think about your goals. Where do you want to be each month in your finances? The budget can help you get there. Where do you want to be at the end of the year? How much do you want to have in savings? How much debt do you want to pay off? The budget can help you get there. What budget items and habits are helping you achieve those goals, right? That will help you look through those things. And then once you have your budget done down the road a little bit, and you feel like, okay, I've got a handle on this, another step that you can take is you can take a look at the recommended percentages between what you're paying and what is recommended that you should be paying based upon your income. So, what percentage of giving, what percentage of your income are you spending on housing? What percentage are you spending on transportation or food? Is there an area that you're overeating in, right? And so those are some of the areas that I want you to continue looking at your goals. The other thing is your budget is knowledge. So I used to like a TV show on a TV show called NCIS. I haven't watched it in quite a while, but I used to watch this TV show called NCIS. And Jethro Gibbs was like the main guy on this show. And he would tell his team, go and learn things, right? Go investigate a crime scene and go and learn things. Your budget will help you learn things. It will show you, do you blow money every Friday? Every Friday that you get paid, do you blow money? It will show you, are you an impulse shopper? Do you go to the store with a list and you come home with 3 bags that you did not plan on buying? It will show you, do you spend without tracking? If you cannot stick to your budget, my guess is that you are not tracking it, right? Is that what's happening for you? Do you have an area of excess spending. So remember when I was first working with my coach, one of the things that I found is that I was always overspending on my groceries, always. And what we figured out was that it wasn't that I was overspending, I had under budgeted, right? I had just simply under budgeted there. There was another area where I felt like I kept having these really high electric bills. And I'm like, there's two of us in the house. What's the deal? Right? Well, I realized that when I left during the day and there was nobody in my house during the day, I kept my house really, really comfortable. All of my dust bunnies were incredibly comfortable in my household, but I was paying for that. So I began to bump up my AC during the day, and then I would just cool it off when I came in at night. Here's the other question that you have to ask yourself. Are you trying to afford a lifestyle that your budget cannot sustain right now? Right? Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? Well, can I tell you something? The Joneses are trying to keep up with you, right? We're all trying to keep up with each other. It will tell you stuff. It will tell you if you need to generate more income. If you have more fixed expenses higher than you do flexible expenses, and you're within ratio, right? Those percentages, you might need to make more money. But if you have a higher percentage of flexible expenses than you do fixed expenses, you might have a spending issue, right? That's how you take a look at it. What do you have there that's going on? As you go through this process, as you enter this process, you will enter a phrase that I call tears, tissues, and tantrums. Okay, I've been there, I've lived it. Tears, tissues, and tantrums. The process of learning to tame your temptations will make your flesh scream. Absolutely will make your flesh scream. Why do they get to afford it? Why can't I do it? Let me give you a phrase. Some of you have heard me say it. If you haven't, write it down because it's that good. If you compare and compete, you will live in defeat. If you compare and compete, you will live in defeat. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Look up. Let God lead you about your finances. But anticipate that your flesh will begin to scream. Know this, you can overcome the screaming of your flesh. You're going to need to pray through it, and you're going to need to talk through it. You might need to talk to someone about it. Keep in mind, budgeting will account for approximately 85% of your spending. So do whatever you can to create margin. Anything you can to create excess margin, because you need to expect the unexpected. Know that mistakes will happen. Right? A couple of months ago, it was a 5-week month. I had shifted my budget from a 4-week month to a 5-week month. And somehow I left off my cell phone bill, like completely left it off my budget in the transfer of a 4-week month to 5-week month. Thankfully, there was enough margin for me to be able to reallocate. But if I had not had a budget, it would have caused me significant stress and financial hardship. So just mistakes will happen. Keep learning, keep budgeting, and soon you will become the budget boss. You will become the budget boss, not the bossed around, not bullied, but the budget boss. Now, the reality is that some of you are going to get this spreadsheet. You are going to be able to plug your numbers in, and you're going to be able to run from this point moving forward. You are not going to need help. You're going to own it. You're just going to own the day. But some of you will be like me, and you will benefit by having someone come alongside of you and help you navigate your budget. So Pastor Kieran's going to tell you about a program that we have available for you.
Yes, man. Awesome. Just so you guys know, I just dropped the budgeting sample worksheet in the chat if you want that. That also will be emailed out to you guys later today. But Arise Church, as some of you guys know, we are starting a coaching and counseling center. And part of that counseling center is really to help you in areas that you need help in. And here are some of the things that we're providing in the area of budgeting. Number one, as you can see on your screen, is we have a budget creation session, initial session, a personalized session where you sit with a coach to really start working through the budgets and working through the things that you need for your life. And the initial cost is $150 for an initial session. And then you can keep going for that. As you continue to see, there is we provide a 1-hour budget review, a weekly or bi-weekly, a $75 per session. And then there's a 30-minute budget review. That's a weekly and or bi-weekly, which turns out to be around $37.50. Now, if you have any questions, you can send it to Pastor Tina. But here's what I know. What I know is this: what we invest in really will become important to us. And so if we begin to invest in our finances and our future, I believe it will really start to shape our lives. I was honestly texting my wife as we were doing this. I said, "Hey, you should have been in this with me, bro." And so we're gonna watch the recording, and so that we could become the boss of our budget instead of the other way around.
Thank you for that, Pastor Karen. Just so you know, some of you might ask, who are the coaches for this? So I will be one of the coaches as I am heading up the Coaching and Counseling Center. So let me be crystal clear. I am not a financial planner. That I am not a financial analyst. There are people that I can refer you to if you need a overhaul of your entire financial plan. What I can help you do is I can help you build and stick to a budget. I can help you identify if you need additional income, and if so, how to achieve that. Tony Parker, who heads up our Financial Peace University class, is also going to be serving as one of our budget coaches. And so he is going to be available for that. And I'm in the process of determining and identifying one other that I'm in conversation with as we speak. Right now, we have 2 budget coaches that are willing to step in through our Coaching and Counseling Center. If this is something you have an interest in, you can simply email me. My email address is on the screen, tina@myrisechurch.com. And let me just say this. There can be a lot of fear in opening yourself up to letting someone else see your finances. I have lived that. I have 100% lived that. But I will tell you personally that after paying my tithe, it was the very next money that I spent every single week. For me, almost a year. I had a lot of jacked up issues around money. And so it took me a year of incrementally working with my coach. It may not take you but 2 sessions. But if you feel like this is something you help with, just know this: it's a judgment-free zone. We're going to meet you eye to eye, nose to nose, knee to knee, and we'll work through this, whatever this is for you, together. So with that being said, I just want to wrap up with giving you the opportunity to ask any final questions before we conclude today's workshop.
Awesome. We do have a lot of people on this, so I would ask you guys just to put it in the chat as we go through it so that we can avoid any interruption. But Pastor Tina, I did have somebody ask, is this workshop or sessions, will they be provided on the weekends?
I can be flexible with the schedule. I can be flexible days, evenings, and weekends. And so, yes, we can certainly work together to accommodate schedules. We can do it in person and we can do it over Zoom to try to make it as easy as possible to accommodate everyone.
Awesome. And I did have a question come in asking about what do you do with miscellaneous income, such as federal income tax return?
Yeah, I create another line item actually on the budget. Anything that I could possibly get income for, I create another line item there. And when it comes in, I just allocate it. So like income taxes, that could be one. I work as a speaker and an author. So there are times that I might have a speaking engagement. So I put that in there. Any extra place where you could receive income, I put it in. I didn't show this part to you, but the question's making me think about it. I actually have a section in there in my budget, my personal budget, called Christmas. And I allocate money for Christmas every single week. It might only be $10. That might be the only, and then I have an account that's set up. I call it my Christmas club money, right? And I put that money over there. Birthdays come around the same time every year. Christmas comes around the same time every year. Back to school comes around the same time every year. My car registrations come around the same time every year. And so I find that if I can put and squirrel a few, like just nuts over here in the barn, if I can begin to put dollars away for that in its own separate account, then I don't freak out when that budget item actually comes due.
So good. Question: do you have a list of side hustles? Maybe suggestions, things that people can do for that?
Yeah, I can send somebody, if anybody has an interest, I can send you a list of side hustles. There's a couple of different people that I follow that are influencers in this area that have their own list of them. And so I do have that I can make available to this group as well.
I also have babysitting you guys can do for my kids as well if you need a side hustle. One other question came in. Do you also offer, does a job coaching and counseling center offer people who are looking at assistance for their resumes? I know you mentioned you do that on the side.
We do, absolutely. It is typically the same, in and around the same cost. A great resume that needs to be written from scratch, or what I call resurrected. In other words, I kill the one you have and I bring a new one back to life. That cost is approximately $150. Coaching basically out of the coaching center is $75 an hour. And so we do that, but some people, they just need a review. They don't need an entire overhaul. They just need someone to sit with them and give them some great suggestions about how to enhance it. The reality is, and hear me on this, if anybody's looking for a job, the way that your, Aunt Sally, who worked for HR at JCPenney's 20 years ago, wrote a resume, is not how you write one today. Please don't do that. Come see me. I'm happy to help you with that.
I have a question regarding on the budgeting spreadsheet itself. How far do you have to break things down? Some people can find it exhausting to have so much detail. So what would your recommendation be for that?
Yeah, so I do recommend large categories, right? Large categories of issues. The level of granular detail is really personality driven, right? If you can manage your money and manage it well with large chunks, then feel free to do that. I found that I need categories, but I know people like in their food budget that have groceries, and they might have Publix, they might have Trader Joe's, they might have eating out, they might have coffee, they might have so it's really personality driven. You break it down to the degree that allows you to track your money.
Awesome. So good. So good. Any questions? Any other questions as we continue to go? Again, I mentioned earlier that the spreadsheet I did drop in the chat. I'll drop it one more time for you guys. And also I will be sending the recording and the spreadsheet via email to everyone in this presentation as well. Any more questions? I have another one. Yes, we can email. Matter of fact, we'll email a list of side hustles. So I'll get with Pastor Tina. We'll email a list of side hustles. Babysitting my kids will be on there as well. Another question is this: for items like vacation fund, where do you place the money until the vacation comes? Do you move it into savings?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I would create an entire account that's called vacation fund, vacation savings. So I just went to South Carolina. My best friend's daughter got married and I got to go spend a couple of days up in there. I had an entire account that was set aside for the dollars that I was going to spend on vacation. And then when I knew it was time for vacation to be able to happen, I just allocated those dollars right back into my account. If you've got great discipline and you truly have great discipline, hear me on this, you must have great discipline to do what I'm recommending. You can put it on a credit card, that vacation, and then you take the money that's sitting in that account and you turn around and you pay it off. The reason I say you have to have great discipline is the temptation for 95% of people will be to overspend, not spend what they've saved.
So good. Another great question. What are the main accounts you would recommend us having? I know you mentioned having several accounts. What accounts would that be? Like a vacation or Christmas? What are those?
Yeah, so I can tell you what I have. I mean, again, I'm not a financial planner. I can just kind of tell you what I do. I have my main checking account. I have my main savings account. I have a vacation one, and I have one for Christmas. I have created a fifth one from time to time. If I was saving for something specific, I want new furniture. I want a complete clothing overhaul, right? Summer's coming and I need a new overhaul. I will save for that. I find that any more than about 5 for me becomes overwhelming. And I'm just like, yo, I need to like, tame this thing down a little bit. I know people who have way more than that, but just think about, I would just encourage you to think about your big buckets. What are your big buckets? Save in your big buckets.
Awesome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that workshop and that you learned a few new tips to help make you budget like a boss. If you would like help building your own budget or talking through your finances, our financial coach and I are available to help you. To learn more, simply go to our website at myrisecoach.com and click the blue Get Started button in the upper right-hand corner. Also, if you'd like to stay in the know about new content being released here, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for watching.